Hey, good people. Welcome to the Evolving Education Project podcast, hosted by me, Dr. Tiffany M. Niachai, and friends, where we center the educational joys, passions, interests, and inquiries of people of color. This episode is part 3 of our Centering Bilingual and Multilingual Latinx Students in Comunidad series. If this is your first time listening to this series, you are listening to the last part. To start from the beginning of the series, go to episode 10 and listen all the way through. I don't want you to miss all of the layers and textures of this series, which is inspired by Drs. Carla España and Luz Yadira Herrera's book, In Comunidad, Lessons for Centering the Voices and Experiences of Bilingual Latinx Students. For this episode, we will learn about the work, where this work is really happening in communities. And we're going to learn specifically about the work of Dr. Tracey T. Flores and her team at Somos Escritoras. Dr. Flores is an assistant professor of language and literacy at the University of Texas at Austin, where she teaches language arts, methods, and community literacies in the K-5 teacher education program. Dr. Flores is a former English language development and English language arts teacher, working for 8 years alongside culturally and linguistically diverse students, families, and communities in K-8 schools throughout Glendale and Phoenix, Arizona. Her research focuses on Latina mothers and daughters' language and literacy practices, the teaching of young writers in culturally and linguistically diverse classrooms, and family and community literacies. Tracey is the founder of Somos Escritoras, We Are Writers, a creative space for Latina girls in grades 6 through 8 that invites them to share and perform stories from their lived experiences using art, theater, and writing as a tool for self-reflection and self-expression. At workshops, girls work alongside each other to craft writing and create artwork that examines and critiques the many ways to express and define themselves. Workshops take place during the summer with additional meetings throughout the school year. Y'all, let's get into this conversation. On the work. So it's Somos Escritoras.
Somos Escritoras, yeah.
Somos Escritoras.
Yeah. Claiming ourselves as writers. We are writers.
Yes. Come on. And so that's what I saw on your website where it says Somos Escritoras, a creative space for Latinx girls.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And before I get into that, I just want to say, I just thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
Yes.
And I have to tell y'all, when I first met Tracey, and I tell her this all the time, all I remember is this big smile. Like this smile, I mean, y'all just got to see this smile. This smile will just fix your day, your life, make your dreams come true. And it just...
Sorry, that made me laugh a little.
Yes, and showed me all of this love and just encouraged me in my career. And then come to find out, she was a classroom teacher. I found out that she was a classroom teacher and that she still is doing work with youth.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love all of the work that she does, because I think that sometimes when those of us who were classroom teachers and we do other things, maybe we move on from the classroom, or maybe you become a professor, maybe you become an administrator, maybe you become a consultant. And sometimes we don't see how we can do, still find ways to work with youth.
Yeah.
And I'm just here to tell you that Dr. Flores is out here with the people for real. Okay. She is still working with youth, still creating wonderful experiences. So I'm just so happy to have you here.
I am grateful and humbled. When I got your email, I was very happy to see the invitation and to be able to just come in conversation with you. I know like right now we've been having lots of Zoom calls and everything's online, but Anne, this right here is the medicine. This is what I need right now, is just to be in conversation with the homies, with my people, with people who are wanting to move things forward. And so I'm just really grateful to you and your crew for inviting me. And I'm just, thank you for the support and for the love. And it's very right back at you. Right back at you.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So talking about people who want to move things forward, that is how I see you. You are a doer. Like, I feel like every space I see you in, I see the sleeves are rolled up and your hands is right? Like, whether it's NCTE, for our new listeners, that's the National Council for Teachers Teaching of English, that a lot of us know each other for. So if you're a teacher or educator, that's a good space to be a part of.
Yes.
Everywhere I see you. And so I want to really talk about the work, especially with our In Comunidad series inspired by that, and how you actualize some of those ideas. And so if you could just start off by telling us, what is Somos Escritoras? We know it's a creative space for Latinx girls, but tell us a little bit more about what is that exactly?
No, absolutely. And when you were talking about having, like, you know, my sleeves up and doing the work, it made me think about my mother, because I really learned that from her and my dad, and the work that they do in the community, that they've done in their professional spaces, and just always bringing me along and me always witnessing this work. And so I can't imagine, like, when you said that, I saw my mother. And so thank you for reminding me of that, because she's with me in all that I do, and all of this, and Somos and everything. And so Somos Escritoras, it is work that has started in my classroom. It's work that the seeds were planted as when I was a classroom teacher in Arizona. So I taught for 8 years in Phoenix and Glendale, Arizona, in the Creighton School District and in the Glendale School District. And when I was in the classroom, I got my degree at ASU, and I got my degree to teach ESL. And I got it during a time when the laws were changing. And so I was in an amazing program, the Multilingual, Multicultural Elementary Program, MLMC at ASU, where I learned alongside students who were practicing to be bilingual teachers. And so we learned language acquisition theory. We learned about centering language, culture, and identity across everything. And so us ESL teachers learned alongside the bilingual teachers. And during that time, as we were getting our certification, the laws were changing in Arizona to move away from bilingual education to English only. And so here I was getting my degree, and I moved right into the classroom. And at first, we didn't really feel it, because I was at a school where, you know, we were literature based. The school was fully bilingual. There were ESL classrooms. You know, the announcements were in Spanish and English. Like, I felt at home. Like, I student taught there, and then I just continued teaching there, and it was my home, and it was a beautiful space. And as I got into my teaching, as the years happened, the law started to come up with, you know, this 4-hour, you know, structured English immersion, where students were, you know, placed in these classrooms, these ELD classrooms, where they were to be given 4 hours of very rigid language instructions. So 4 hours of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And, you know, a different set of standards. You know, we had vocabulary walls, we had these verb tense studies, and it was very just taking language to this isolated state. And what I was seeing was my students starting to police each other's language. And I was seeing a very different curriculum that we were supposed to give in the ELD classroom than their English-speaking peers just across the way. And I was seeing, you know, this policing, and I was seeing the impact it was having. And I came into my work believing in my heart that they were readers and writers, that they had important stories to tell. And that was the focal point of everything that we did. And even within these very rigid laws and mandates, I found ways to make that happen, to make sure their voices were centered, to stop that policing in, at least in my classroom. Like, we're not policing each other's language. And that's not what the law's about. The law, the law is saying these things, and this is not what we're doing. And so I, within all of that, I tell you this long story because during that time, I wanted to also invite families in to write together, because I believed everyone has stories, and I believe it, that my families had stories. And so I invited my families in for a family writing workshop. And I had 25 students, and I had 10 families sign up. And we met for 12 weeks, one time a week for like 2 hours. And we had extended it. At first it was going to be like 8 times, but then we extended it because we had work to do and they didn't want it to end. And that was one of the most beautiful experiences of my teaching, the way that we came together through story, the relationships we built because we started to see each other, not at a parent-teacher conferences. They knew my story, started to know my story. I started to know their story, and we built these really powerful and important relationships. And this was also during the time when SB 1070 was passed, where if you looked like you could be undocumented and you got pulled over, they could ask you for your papers. So here we are building this beautiful community in my classroom, majority Latino, Latina, students and families. And then in the neighborhoods, they're living in fear, and, they're doing neighborhood sweeps. And so this became a space not only where we were sharing our stories, but also sharing resources on how to navigate this really scary time, and sharing, what to do if heaven forbid, you get picked up, and, those types, that real type of ways that our communities do that, how we help each other and how we share that knowledge. And so during that time, there was so much that happened, and so many ways that we came together, the ways that we knew how, and the ways that we, cried and laughed and just healed and tried to figure things out. And so each family, each parent, child, brother, sister, each of them wrote their own story, and they took it through the writing process, and we had a celebration. And they invited their family and friends, and that has been what I've been continuing to do through all my years of teaching. And then my last year in the classroom, I taught 6th grade, and I really wish I would have taught middle school sooner, because people kept telling me you should teach 6th grade. And I was like, oh no, I just want to teach 2nd grade. They're like, but you're so good with the girls. Like the kids love you, and it's the relationships are the most. And I know that, but I was just kind of like, oh no, and not that I was scared or anything. I didn't see myself as a middle school teacher. And then my last year, I taught 6th grade ELA, so I had 2 classes of 30 6th graders, and it was the best year of my life. Like, I never wanted to leave the classroom. I only left because I went to work toward my doctorate. But in that year, the writing that we did and the community that we built was beautiful. And I had this group of girls. I remember these girls because they'd come in at lunch, and I was asking them to write in ways that they'd never been asked to write before, and, giving them permission. Because sometimes, it's like we need permission. It's like, no, just do you. But I was opening the space for them in ways that they hadn't, and they were processing things. And, 6th grade, your body starts changing, and, you start boys and all of the things, you're wanting to be more an adult and be grown, but, you don't realize being grown is a trap. And so, they had all these things, and they saw me as someone that they could talk to, because I was sharing my life in that space too, my stories, because I write with my students, I write with my families, I write with the girls, and, they wanted to share their period stories, and they wanted to ask me about my period, and then just different things. And and I talked to them, and I would listen, but at the same time, I was like, I didn't know how much to share, and I didn't want to enter in conversations that the parents might say, why are you talking to my daughter about those things? So then I thought back to the work of the Family Writing Project, and I thought, what if you brought girls and their parents together during this time? Yeah. To write and share, because their mothers and their fathers were not always 30, 40 years old. We were 12, 13, 14 years old at one time. And, you know, we had different views of the world and different views of ourselves. And what if we came together, parents and their daughters, through story, through the sharing? What could happen? And so that carried me into my dissertation, into my doctoral work. And, you know, I continued working with youth in writing spaces. And then my dissertation was a space for mothers, daughters, and fathers. It was initially going to be mothers and daughters. And there were some girls who wanted to participate, and the fathers were the only ones who could go. So I said, okay. And they came and they participated, and they also sat back and let the girls talk a lot. It wasn't like they tried to take over. They let the women and the girls, like, they were learning. They were all learning from each other, and the stories that were shared and the new understandings that were happening and the ways that they were having some arguments, but then also, like, even though we're disagreeing, I want you to know that I'm still here for you. Like, we might not see eye to eye on this thing, but I want you to know, like, I'm here, like, and I hear you and I see you. And so after 2 summers of working with mothers and daughters, middle school, high school, Latina girls and their parents, the girls every summer wanted their own space. And so then when I left Arizona and went to UT, I put those seeds in place. I'm like, let's make a space for the girls. And so I connected with an organization in Austin called Comunidad, and it's an organization that supports first-generation Latina girls and their mothers to pursue a college degree. So it's about connecting the mothers to the daughters' educational experience. And what I like about this program is it's not just about the school, it's about their mind, body, and spirit of the girls and the mothers. And so I reached out to this organization and I talked to the director, and she's like, this is great. You can offer, yes, let's do this. And you know what? Where are you going to have it? And I told her, and she goes, well, why don't you have it here in our office? So we had like the office space, like this boardroom that we met in, and you know, we were able to put stuff up all throughout the room. And so the women at the space were working while we're in here, you know, doing Somos Escritoras, writing and sharing. And, you know, they're leaning in and like listening, and then they're like starting to share. So it was really beautiful, and it was a really good collaboration, because being in the community was helpful, because sometimes, you know, with the parking at the institutions and finding the rooms and just all of that red tape. And also it feels different being in the community. And so, so that's this long story about this evolution of Somos. And so since like I was a classroom teacher, I've always worked in these spaces, sharing stories, sharing lives. And through my doctoral work that is where I learned about like Gloria Anzaldúa and this, you know, the work of the Combahee River Collective. That stuff I didn't know until I was getting my damn doctorate. And so I'm learning about these fierce women, and I'm learning about this foundation, about how different my life would have been if I would have had their words in front of me younger. And so like, that has really also shaped this evolution of Somos. Me reading Gloria Anzaldúa, me reading Audre Lorde, me reading Bell Hooks, me seeing these women starting this kitchen table press. And, you know, we do this. We see a need, we make it happen. Yes, and I've been reading a lot because I'm doing a lot of writing around this right now. And I'm just like this emotional, like, because I am so grateful to them, and I want our girls to know about them. Mm-hmm. And I want my pre-service teachers to know about them. And so, you know, the foundational, as I was doing my doctorate and I was learning about this work, I took this amazing class, intersectionality, gender and race. And it was taught by Dr. Kim Scott and Dr. Suhey Vega, both of them together. That class changed my life, changed me in ways I constantly am always. Dr. Vega ended up being on my committee, and Dr. Scott is still someone really important to me. And I was pregnant at the time, so here I am reading all this theory and just like mad and then crying, and then just it's shaping Somos in this really beautiful way. And like, I didn't know about this legacy of women, of Latinas, of Chicanas, of Black women, Asian, writing in this way, writing their lives. And so that has shaped, and it's foundational to what I see in this space and what our English language arts classrooms can and should be, rooted in this writing and in this embodied understanding of what writing can be, and storytelling and music and art. And so, yeah, I'm kind of going all over the place, but it's been a journey. And even though I said it started in my classroom, it started when I was a young girl. And it started with my mother and my grandma, my nana. And so, I don't know, like, yeah, it's been a journey, and I'm learning so much about myself alongside the girls. And then even the writing mentors who are in the space are all Latina women, a Latina Chicana, self-identifying Latina Chicana Puerto Rican women, doctoral students, undergraduate pre-service teachers who I work with in my courses, teachers from the local community. We come together, and the women also get so much out of it too, because it's this feeling this hole that we never had. And even in the work that we do in classrooms, like we see like this is what we need to be doing. Sorry, I just kept going.
That. This is no, don't you apologize. Let me tell you something. We love long stories at the Evolving Education Project. You just tell your long story, okay? Because that's how we get the whole story. And I just feel like we are such kindred spirits, because we have so many. We have to talk more after this, even after this episode, because
yes,
I just feel like, you know, I didn't learn about Black feminism until my second year, my doctoral program. And as a classroom teacher, I did all this work with the Black girls that I worked with. And I think, you know, it's something about being, you know, women identify, you know, we identify as women, women of color, and then seeing ourselves mirrored in our students and understanding this, but also thinking about, I know what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say, like, also thinking about how it's almost like we need them too, just as much as they, you know, like we really, so like, I remember that even when I've done things as a doctoral student with Black girls, going back and now having all of these mentor texts, you know, these strong women of color, you're learning aside, you know, alongside them. It's like we're all of this whole space is like our survival is dependent on it. You know, if we, and I love that Somos Escritos is an escritoras is an intergenerational space, right? And even what you were doing with before, how you started out with the families, bringing out the families, and now it's become a space where you have all of these Latinx women and girls working and thinking together and processing language, culture, ethnicity, gender, race, all of this all together, and thinking about their experiences with that. I just think that's so profound. And I think that not many people can do that well, but I do think like those are, I just feel so like seen hearing your story. I really do. And I know that's really selfish of me to say, but I'm just going to say it because people don't always value those ways of being.
Yeah.
Especially in where we're at now, or even before, and like the people who, the people in spaces, wherever space you are in, that look at something, have vision,
Yeah.
and respond to the vision and meet, and regardless of what the resources look like. And
Absolutely.
even just regardless, like, it kills me, like, when people say, and I get it, like, oh, I can't do this because I don't have this, that, and other. I'm just like, I just remember when you're a classroom teacher, you just have to do what you
Exactly.
in certain communities, you got to do what you got to do.
Mhm.
Or even if you're not a classroom teacher, but you're an educator in a not-for-profit or in a spiritual institution or whatever,
Yeah.
or another space where you just have to do what you have to do. And so what I also really love about now where you're at now is that how you've partnered with other organizations that you didn't have to. You're still residing with the people. You're still going where people are, where the community is, not just bringing everything to the institution and being really, it's really, even the way you organize it is very people and community centered.
Yeah.
And I really really appreciate that. But what I want to talk about too is I see when teachers who I mean the story, I mean just you sharing your experiences of like your resistance, like this, creating spaces like this was like a way to resist oppressive language practices, policies,
Absolutely.
policies and practices, right? And I didn't want to go here this quick in the episode, but I just feel like I have to.
No, absolutely.
But like, what would you say to other educators or teachers and in schools or even in not-for-profits that are trying to really be critical, really center students' voices and stories and ways of being and cultures, but they're getting all of this pushback, whatever, because I really feel like what you shared was a model of like subversive teaching.
Yeah.
And around this. So what would you say to them?
And to what you were saying, my principal was not supportive. Like, I told her what we were doing because I wanted to let her know, like, people are going to be coming in and out. We're going to be here later. Oh, great. This is great. We want our families to be involved. It's so great. But when there were like meetings after school, like we had our behavior the Be Smart, Be Safe. What is that? There's this behavior program, the 3 Bs or something.
There's so many of them.
And I was, I was on the committee because I was put on there, and we had a meeting. And, and I tried to say, get out of it because I'm like, my family's coming. Like, this is our time. And it was like, you need to be there. So I had to leave my room. I left, the families were doing their thing, because we really blurred that boundary of like who's leading or however that is, and so I left and they just were working. I came back and it was like no one really noticed because, they were so into what they were doing. But I think about that and it pisses me off. Like I have this room of families writing. You've never even come in to see what we're doing. And I remember there was another guy there who, he was like one of the coaches, or he was there. I forget exactly what his role was, but he was hired later in the year. He was a former principal though. And when he heard what I was doing, he was into it and he got it and he came over and he would ask me about it. And I was like, why? Like that is a leader right there. Like that is someone seeing what is happening and being supportive. And I think about that and it makes me mad. It makes me really mad. And so what I want, and so I tell that story because it's not, I tell how I did these things, but it wasn't like I was just doing it in my room with the door closed. Like I do tell you to close the door and do your work. Yes, I do encourage that because you are the instructional leader in that room. You're the lead learner and you do the things that your students need. And what I want to encourage you to do is to find your people. To find your people that you can bring around you, that you can work with, that will support you in this work. And it might not be at your school, it might be elsewhere, but find people that can help you do this work. And when I mean help you do this work, be a sounding board, be someone who will listen, be someone who will help you find the words to articulate the things that you need to say to your administration, to practice those things. Because I also feel like that's part of it too. Like, we need people that we can, help you see the different perspectives that might come up when you're trying to share about what you're trying to do if you're not getting that support. And also invite people from your room into your class to see what you're doing. That was something that ended up being one of my saving graces at one of the schools I worked at is, I'd have my door open when I was, working with families, and some teachers would come in, and then that kind of started to spread it. So then it wasn't just me doing this. It was Autumn down the hall. It was Carla next door, because they could hear, they could see. And Autumn, I remember she was a first-year teacher, and she's still one of my very dear friends. I was doing this family work, and I had the door open, and she was like, and then she asked if she could come and participate, because she was like, this is amazing. And then the next semester, she had her own workshop up and running, because she was like, we need to be doing this. And so invite people in and welcome them and talk with them too. And find ways to share your work. Find ways to share it. And know that you have a lot more support than you think. It might just be one person in your building, the principal who has a powerful position, but there are a lot more people who will have your back than you think, and who will support you and help you in this endeavor. Because I feel like we are stronger than all of that other, naysayers or people who want to, silence and control.
And I think there's a lot to learn from this conversation for administrators to learn from these conversations, because, these are the type of teachers that are the heartbeat of schools.
Yes.
These and if you don't get it, if you don't get the beauty that you have with you, you don't want to be a leader. You will push these type of teachers away.
Yes.
And you can't just like them. You can't just celebrate or want to know about how, like teachers, because I was, and I'm sure this was like, I was a teacher that I didn't send a whole bunch of kids to the office or whatever. Right. Like, we have to go beyond that.
Yes.
Like, the teachers that are having strong relationships with students, that are strong pedagogues, that do the extra stuff in schools, that make schools just even just for that 1 hour, a great place to be. Yeah. Like, value those people, and encourage them. And when they invite you to their classrooms or to the little program or whatever, come and see what they're doing and actually learn about what they're doing. So I love that you're talking about that. So I'm going to go back to Somos Escritoras.
You're good.
No. I'm making a face like, I better get it together. Okay, so I got to say it right. But how do you, so how would you say this, so I'll ask two questions and whichever one resonates with you, because I think they're connected. So my first question would be, how do you support the storytelling, among the Latinx girls who participate? And how does Somos Escritoras disrupt what writing has been traditionally?
Absolutely. I think that those are very connected questions. And so the ways that we invite girls to share, that we encourage them to share, is we are right there alongside them. So it's not like I'm at the front and like talking to them and then go write. We are in a circle. We are there together, sharing our lives, sharing, writing our own stories alongside the girls. And I think that that's really important. And that's something that when the writing mentors, when we meet and when, women want to work, that's really important. Like, we are also there writing. We're not just there, we're voyeurs in the space. We are sharing, and we are writing, and doing it right alongside them. So I think that that's a really important part of what we do. And also the literature and the text that we bring in.
Yes.
That is so important in thinking about the topics and the themes. And so language, culture, and identity, and the ways that we weave together different pieces of writing around a topic. And so like we'll look, for instance, we've done some work around body image. And so we've looked at stuff on Instagram. Carol Rossetti, she has these pictures, this art she makes on her Instagram, and it's women reframing parts of their bodies that they've been ashamed of. And so there's like an image. So it'd be like Tracey didn't used to like her curly hair. She thought it was big, and she thought that straight, long blonde hair was beautiful. But now Tracey embraces her curls. She wears them wild, blah, blah, blah. And so it's reframing. It talks about like, and this is true story, Tracey, I used to hate this. I used to try to straighten it, but now I embrace it. And so on this website, she has different ones like that, braces, body image, like all sorts of things. And so, we looked at that, and we had the girls think about themselves and create something similar. We, read Lucille Clifton, Homage to My Hips. We looked at Nalgona Pride and some of the work they're doing about body positivity. So we bring in all these different texts to then have all of us reflect on our experiences and what society is showing us and telling us, and what is our truth. And then we create art and writing around it. And the girls, we don't pressure them to like, here's what you're writing about. But these are the themes that we're looking at. We've done a lot with language, and we've pulled, we read How to Tame a Wild Tongue alongside Michelle Serros about her language and not feeling Latina enough. Michelle Serros is amazing, and I didn't learn about her until I was older. And then we've looked at some NPR little cartoon, StoryCorps. They have these cartoons, and it's like a 3-minute cartoon, Facundo the Great, and how they were changing everyone's names, but they didn't change him. They would change him and shorten them, but he was Facundo. And if they change it, what's it gonna be like? Fuck. And so they never changed it. And so like, we pull these different pieces together. And there was another one from NPR about a town in Texas that had a funeral for Spanish, and how these kids, they put Spanish in a little box and they buried him at school because Spanish was dead and we're not speaking Spanish. And the kids, that's the teacher. And the women are grown now. They're, in their 60s, 50s, 60s and 70s. And it still is this trauma. And they went back and they had a special ceremony to unearth Spanish. And so we bring all of these readings together to also historicize, to show like, this is your experience now, but there's this legacy. And so our stories are interwoven with these. And so the readings, the videos, the digital multimodal pieces that we read and discuss are very intentional to get that dialogue, a lot of talking, a lot of reflective, and then some art and writing around it. Because I want the girls to be encouraged to try different ways to express themselves, ways that maybe they're not encouraged to at school. Because when we think about, ELA, it's a lot of writing. Write this essay, write this. And why not art? Why do we stop drawing in junior high?
Yes.
And so I draw a lot too from my years as a teacher. From, we're going to draw, then we're going to write. Like put detail, and why do we stop those practices? And so the texts are very important, and the dialogue that then goes into them having that time to write and to explore. And then some sharing at the end, constantly sharing out loud, sharing in pairs, holding people to share, like that sort of thing. But, and also us sharing. And we tell the girls, like, we are right here alongside you. Like we, are learning with you, and, we're in this with you. We were Latina girls once too.
That's right. So I guess I want to ask, what do you have any memory or of like a magical moment during Somos Escritoras where just a magical moment, a moment that was very special to you that you will really always remember?
Yes. So, our second summer in Austin, we partnered with an all-girls middle school. And there's a couple of girls' schools in the large district in Austin. One is a school that is like a lottery school. And the school that we partnered with is a neighborhood school, all-girls school, mostly girls of color. And we partnered with, I reached out to the principal, we had a meeting, and then she made me come talk to parents. Like I was there. Like when I say made me, like she didn't say yes right away. Like I went to a parent meeting and then I was doing different things and then it was finally like, yes. And I appreciate that. Like that's also part of this work. Like we're not just going and doing this work and like you gotta go and have these conversations and be in community. And so in this school, we had about 12 girls who came in the summer. They gave us like a classroom. So we were able to set it. It was in the summer before school was starting. And I just remember it was being so special being there in the school. But there were some girls that in language arts, when I teach language arts, we teach at schools. And we worked with a 6th grade teacher and those girls, they were amazing. And they ended up coming to Somos. I had the teacher connect me because that was the school they ended up going to. And these girls, they came and they were 3 girls, just really tight friends, really, one of them's they're all great. And then there's one that always comes to my mind, Briseda. And she is very bold and just proud of her raíces, her roots. And she sees the world in ways that I didn't see like that at her age. And she gets things in a deep, deep level. The injustices, the discrimination, and she is just pushing against it and pushing against it. And so at our final reading, we have a celebration and we invite the families, and we had it at the art center down in downtown Austin. And she came and she had her hair braided. She had this beautiful black skirt on with the like the Mexican flag on it and this little peasant top. And at first she came in all shy and I was like, no, you walk proud because you look beautiful and you look bold and you look, yes, like she wanted to come. And at first she was a little shy. And then she was like, I'm going to wear something really special. I'm like, great. And then when she came and I just saw her embodying this herself, herself, her spirit, her person, everything that I knew was inside of her was presented on her. She came and then she read about her family. She had a little zine she made about her family that was about Mexico too. And so I'll never forget that because she felt comfortable bringing in her whole self. At first she was kind of unsure and I'm like, no, She was comfortable bringing her whole self to this reading. And I'll never forget that. And I have pictures of us. And I just think that she was so beautiful. And I don't think at that age, I would have felt comfortable enough in my skin to show my true self. And so that to me shows the power of what can happen when we build space alongside our girls. Space that's rooted in their culture, their language, their identities, that centers them. Like they're not adjacent, this is about them. And so I'll never forget that. And that's the last time we had an in-person Somos. But I'll just never forget when I saw her, I was like she took my breath away. Just her whole self.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. What happens? That's what happens when we create spaces where students can show up fully as their whole selves, and where we welcome all parts of them, right? And we also teach others to allow, like the other people in the space, that we welcome, like this is a norm. We welcome everyone, however they show up, and we want to celebrate that. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit just because we started talking about this. So we talked yesterday a little bit.
A little bit.
Just a little sister girl chat, hermanas, just get our little chat. And I was thinking about, I'm noticing ever since I started this podcast, I'm being connected to different types of people that I'm noticing, like even teachers in classrooms, professors like you that are, and people in nonprofits who do extra.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I got you.
And I'm like meeting all of these different people across these spaces, people who they have their jobs and in their careers, but we still do more to, just because not that you have to do this, but this is just the way we do our work. And we, we do other things to connect to our communities, to connect to the students that we love, the people that we love, mostly people of color, to enhance that. And so I just wonder, how do you navigate that? And I don't even want to ask, how do you navigate that? Because that makes it sound so negative, right?
Yeah, no, I got you.
But what I want to say is, I think there are a lot of people who are trying to figure out their purpose and their work.
Yeah.
And I think people like you, I think me, for right now, I think I'm more clear about my work, not my job, but my work beyond my job and beyond my career. So how do you know that? How do you know that, and how do you boldly, as you do, the example I always see from you, walking boldly in knowing what your work is and leaning into that, even if it doesn't look like everyone else's way of going about it.
I never wanted to leave the classroom, and I never want to get away from the reasons I started this, to get my doctorate in the first place. And that was to make a difference, to be able to impact the teachers that come to our classrooms. And I think that my very body and being in that space does that, because of the experiences that I bring with me. And I'm recognizing that, and I hope that you do too, that we have these important experiences and knowledges that we carry with us. And I didn't fully get it, or start to really get it, should I say, until I came to UT. And I hope that you also acknowledge that too, because I don't want to ever forget that or get away from why I started the work. Why, and that goes back to my family, and it goes back to the stories of my students, what we went through together, the struggles as well as the joy, the love, and about continuing to be in community, to continue to learn and not get so far removed from the actual work, the actual classrooms, the actual people, that I'm all up here pontificating whatever without really knowing what I'm talking about, because I'm not even there. And so I never want to be that person who's working with pre-service teachers, or who's doing any of this work or writing, or who is still not deeply connected to people. Because I'm here because I believe in teachers, I believe in kids, I believe in young people I believe in families and communities. And I want to find ways to continue to be in community, because that is what matters in this. And I always like think about this, and I tell like people, like, I did not uproot my whole life in Phoenix to just go and.
You better preach.
Like, I did not, I didn't move it. The first time I ever moved was when I got the job at UT. I lived in Arizona till I was 37, born and raised. I never thought I would leave. And then, like, you know, I uprooted myself, and I remember crying.
We are the same. I'm just going to interrupt you. I lived in Buffalo, New York until I was 37.
Like, I remember when I got the offer at UT, I cried. I cried because I was so excited, and I cried because I didn't want to leave my mom.
Yeah.
And then I remember talking to the chair and getting, you know, the offer, the full everything. And then she's like, I'm going to send you the letter. Don't say anything now. Because, of course, I'm like, yes. Or like, yeah. And she's like, no, you go and talk to your people. And then, you know. And I remember telling my dad, like, here are the things. Sitting down with my mom and dad, here are the things. He's like, wow, like, they really want you. And I was just like, just, and he's like, we're going to make this work. Mm-hmm. And that's all I needed to know everything. Like, 2-hour plane ride, it's all good. But I did not uproot my life. I did not leave my mom or my dad or my community, everything I've known, and move my daughter from Hernan and Tata to just go play. Like, I'm here to do the work.
That's right.
To make a difference, to be in community. And so, I don't even remember the question. I'm trying to circle back to it.
You did it. You went beyond the questions, honey. Okay.
When I think about that, like, I never wanted to leave, and that is one of the biggest things that I fell in love with with UT, was that we teach our courses at schools. We have partnerships with schools. So I even had a graduate course that I taught, and we were in a school because I was working with a parent specialist, and I'm like, I want to be in a school. Like, I want to be like working. I want the parents to come to the university, but I also want us to be where the parents are, because this is about parents. And so, like, that was one of the biggest things that drew me to my institution, was that this field, this embedded teaching that we were doing. And that matters so much to me. So much to be, you know, with the mamas, to be with, you know, the parent specialist, Anna Whitehead, who's just, I love her to death. Cameron Allen's another person that I've worked with that I just deeply respect. And that's everything. That's how this is what we should be doing.
Whoa, y'all got a treat today. I mean, we need to send her an offering or something. You better teach the people, Dr. Flores. Teach them how to just be. I
appreciate you. And I never want to get away from those things, because those things, yes. I never want to get so high up in I don't mean high up. I mean, like, I never want to forget.
That's right.
The experience of what it was like to be a teacher. And I don't. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine being a teacher right now. It's hard. It's hard anyways, but right now, like, I can't imagine.
Yeah, it's really.
So shout out to all you teachers always. Like, I never want to forget that. And just, I always want to stay rooted and grounded, and don't get so up in my head. Like, and I have friends that I'm like, if I ever get like that, you just, and they're like, oh, don't worry, we will.
Get me together. Right. Get me together. You ever see me acting brand new, you say, come here.
Yeah, exactly.
Get me together, okay?
You think you're, I knew you when.
Listen, I knew you when, baby girl. Okay? So you can calm all that down. And also, I think, like, to your point, like, I just feel like I owe my entire career and work to my students.
Yes.
My Black students in Buffalo, New York.
Yep.
And the ones that and the ones that loved me, and the ones that made me think about how I was teaching.
Yeah.
made me become a better teacher,
Mm-hmm.
right? Made me think about that. And so, yeah, we can't forget that. And I don't ever want to get so intellectual. And I love reading. Everybody, y'all see, if you see any videos of me, you see my big old bookshelf. I love reading. I love the intellectual part, but I don't want to get so intellectual that like we say, you're no earthly good. Like I'm no, like I can't even just be with people while I enjoy all of that. And I could theorize all day, but who is it touching, and who is it getting to? Is it touching people?
Exactly.
And am I still being connected, and then connected in ways that that I'm of use, and I'm wanted to be around.
Yeah.
Not
absolutely
just keeping connected solely to benefit myself,
mm-hmm.
but that I am welcomed amongst the people.
Absolutely.
And in communities, like you were telling us already, with even the partnership that you've created. So,
and that when you can have the real talks, like they'll pull you in and be like, we got to talk. And I've had some of those talks too. And I'm like, you know what? Thank you. And thank you for feeling this comfort with me for us to be able to readjust what we're doing.
That's right.
I don't get mad. I'm like, good. Like they see me, like they can talk with me, like,
That's right. Well, I thank you so much for this rich dialogue. It was so much more. It was everything I thought it would be and more.
Thank you so much. This has been a really restorative conversation for me, and I just thank you for the invitation and for supporting the girls and for all the work that you're doing to bring people together through this dialogue.
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording. Thank you for listening to part 3 of our Centering Bilingual and Multilingual Latinx Students in Comunidad series. The quintos that Tracey shared from her time in the classroom reminds us that sometimes you have to teach subversively in order to center your students and families. She shared many resources and approaches that can help you to do this. I especially appreciate Dr. Flores for encouraging me to stand on where I came from, and I hope you will do the same. Remember, wherever you find yourselves, and I quote the words of Dr. Flores here, we are not here to play. We are here to do the work. Well, that's it. We hope that you've enjoyed this month's series and know that you'll hear from us soon. To find out more about the Evolving Education Project, to write in or to join our listserv, check us out at evolvingeducationproject.com. And please download this podcast, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. If you've been enjoying our podcast so far, you can also support us by writing a review. Favorable reviews help more educators, organizers, families, communities, and activists to find us. We hope to cultivate an authentic audience and community. We want you to help us to evolve over time and shape what this could be. Now that you know what we're about, let us know what you want to learn more about, authors that you would like us to interview, discussions you would like to have. Okay, that's all for now, good people. We out.